how you can wake up from autopilot and start to be the captain of your own life and steer your own ship. Hello, and welcome aboard another episode of the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. This is your captain speaking, Taylor Morgan. On today's episode, we have another special guest. His name is Tommie Parker. Tommie is a solar panel charged by authenticity, discipline, and understanding, who lives by faith, through power, and with love. Tommie is also a mindset coach through his company, Powered Up Academy, where he specializes in identity, ego, and alignment. He is also the owner of Powerful One LLC and the nationally recognized Powerful One podcast. Finally, Tommie is a part-time professional wrestler and amateur Muay Thai fighter and coach who manages a martial arts academy in Annapolis, Maryland. It's quite the rap sheet you got there, Tommie. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, brother. It's a killer intro, man. I appreciate it. It's kind of funny, like hearing all that, and then you're like, "Oh, wow, man, I've done some okay stuff, I guess."
Wow, I do all that. Nice, sweet. So let's start it off with, what do you mean by you are a solar panel charged by authenticity, discipline, and understanding?
Yeah, dude. So that is my purpose statement. So, part of what I do in my coaching, man, is one of the first things is like, I think it's so important, man, for people to start to understand who they are. I think a lot of times when you look at why relationships fail, when you look at why people don't stick to certain things, man, people ultimately just go through life not knowing who they are. And I think a big thing for me, man, is like the way I define success is, being who you want to be, having what you want to have, and doing what you want to do. And so for me, man, like that is like my identity. So when people say, what do you do? Or when people say, who are you? Tell me about yourself. I start with who I am, right? My identity, because that is a personal contract and a purpose statement that I have that I really just live by, man. So that is the who to I am. And, obviously there's the do, right? We're human beings. So I really like to get across, man, that's like who I am, bro. That's the personal contract that I have to myself of who I'm going to be and what you can expect when you, just come in contact with me.
I love that. Not a lot of people have purpose statements or vision statements or mission statements or any of that stuff. And so you mentioned your definition of success, which is kind of similar to mine. My definition of success is happiness plus excellence. Excellence meaning you're constantly striving to improve yourself and those around you in some way, shape, or form. And then happiness being you enjoy the process of doing that. And then usually with that, the traditional definition of success, money and all that stuff, that usually comes when you are excellent, helping other people around you become excellent and loving what you do. So one more time, will you kind of repeat what your definition of success is?
Yeah, man. And I really like yours too. And I think there's so many definitions that I hear from, like just powerful people, performance coaches, and they're all really like similar, right? It's the same idea of, like doing something for a greater cause, right? And getting the fulfillment and the happiness from it. But yeah, man. So my definition is really being who you want to be, doing what you want to do, and having what you want to have. And if you can align with those three things, and obviously some other things that we can get into, but I think that's ultimately the way I will define success. If I can have those three things, man, if I can do those three things, my life is going to be good.
Being who you want to be, doing what you want to do, and having what you want to have is basically the exact opposite of how a lot of people live, because a lot of people live on autopilot, which I know is something that you're passionate about and myself as well. So can you talk a little bit about how you can wake up from autopilot and start to, in captain's lifestyle terms, be the captain of your own life and steer your own ship?
I love it, man. I love how you say that, like my programs, I say, be the MVP of your own life. Cause I have an MVP system, but it's the same idea, man. And you're right. Like, what I say is literally, dude, 99% of people are asleep their whole lives, man, and will not really wake up to the actual reality that is life, right? Like there's a personal reality that's been created for them, based on their personality, based on their past programming, all this other stuff, man. But The truth is, dude, most people are, basically our thoughts are the same. 90% of our thoughts are the same as they were yesterday. And 80% of those thoughts are negative, man. So if you're living a life today that you don't want to live, you're going to continue to live that same life over and over because of the way you're thinking, because of your programming, your hardwiring. And so, yeah, man, I say that to say, it's just so sad when you see that so many people are okay being, discontent on that autopilot. And so, the biggest thing for me, man, is the first step to anything, any type of change, any type of growth, like when you look at the neuroscience, physically changing the brain, it all comes from first awareness, man. You got to have awareness to the fact that that where you want to be and where you are, there's a discrepancy, man. There's a gap. And so, there's different processes to go through, man. But the first thing is that general idea of, being aware and being conscious.
And how do you suggest people start to do that? Because, awareness and mindfulness is, all the craze right now. If you're in the, personal development space and community, which if you're listening to this podcast, you are, and you've heard me talk about mindfulness before. So how do you recommend somebody well, first let's ask, how can somebody recognize if they are on autopilot?
Right. It's a really good question, Taylor. I would say, so 95% of our life is controlled by the subconscious. So like, I'm not saying that 99% of people are on autopilot without any like data to back it up. I mean, 95% of our life is predetermined based on our subconscious. And that's what we get from our past childhood.
How can somebody tell if they're running on autopilot?
What happens is we have our conscious and our subconscious. So our conscious, as we're building our conscious, like when a new stimulus comes and we become aware of it, like our conscious, I describe it as like our CEO, right? It's hyper aware, it's alert, it's on point. It's that 5%, man, of that new stuff that's coming in where we have to, be the CEO to go deal with that problem. But what happens is in business, when a CEO is doing a repetitive task over and over, he's going to delegate it to somebody else, right? So what we do is we delegate that to the subconscious. We say, hey, let's put this on autopilot and just let it run. And the problem with that is that most people, the CEO has delegated something that's usually not a good trait, right? And so the key, man, is really being the observer of the thoughts. I explain like there's 3 B's in life, man. There's the being, which is us. And then there's the brain and the body. And most people, so the subconscious is the brain and the body just running on autopilot, like I said, for that 95% of our life. So what we have to do is be that third B. We have to be the being that's observing it all. So the key is, when that thought comes into play, when that feeling comes into play, to really catch it in its tracks and think about the thought, think about where is this feeling coming from? So what I like to do, man, is the programming will come into place, right? And subconsciously we'll usually filter it through this cycle that I like to call PT-FAR, where basically the programming will go to a thought, the thought will go to a feeling, the feeling to an action, and the action to a result. And the result just reinforces whatever that programming was. So whether it was a belief, a rule. And so the key, man, is catching it at the thought, right? So if I think, man, like, if we're in the gym, man, right, and we're working out and I look over and I see Taylor and he's staring at me, immediately there's going to be a thought that comes in, right, based on my programming. So the programming might lead to a thought. Maybe it's a little bit of insecurity. I see Taylor, he's big, he's got muscles, he's on his goal to hit that above 200 pounds, right? So what happens is I think that thought and it leads to a feeling. Maybe that feeling is insecurity, which leads to an action. Maybe I start to, my physiology goes down. Maybe I'm carrying myself lower, right? The action, which leads to a result, man. Overall, I just feel worse about myself. I'm reflecting, I have a shadow where I'm looking at somebody and wanting to be more like them and less like myself. So it's this vicious negative feedback loop cycle that goes on. And so the key is really the observation of the initial thought that comes in and really understanding where that thought's coming from. And then from there, there's some processes that you can really go through to eradicate that bad thought.
Mm-hmm. So once somebody realizes that they are on autopilot, what would you say is the next step?
The next step is it can be very overwhelming, man. Nobody wants to hear that they've been living their life on autopilot. Like it's not a good thing. Like when you realize that you've been just coasting through life, like nobody wants to hear that, right? So your ego is going to take a hit, man. And so, the real key and the real power is understanding that it's not your fault. Like all the stuff that determines your personal reality right? Like the programs that were instilled in you from these people in your past, right? These limiting beliefs that were, passed on to you. I think the key is understanding that, like, while you may have been on autopilot, it's not your fault. But now that you have the awareness, that first step, now it's your responsibility to kind of do something with the awareness. And so, what I like to do, man, is really, I like to say, evaluate, illuminate, elevate. So the first thing we can do is when that thought comes in, evaluate it. Like, what is the thought, right? Just very simply, like, what is the thought that I'm thinking right now? And then kind of illuminate it, right? Shine some light on it. If it gets past the thought and goes to a feeling, right? Just shine some light on it, man. Where is this thought? Where is this feeling coming from? And then what we can do is start to elevate it. We can really look back to our past, because, dude, everything comes from our past, man, our past programming. And what we can do is take and find the problem where it's coming from, that programming, and elevate it to the surface, and just see that there's a big discrepancy between this thought and the actual reality. It's usually a false thought that just comes into our life. And so, the real power is really observing that thought. What is it? Shining light on it, and then bring it to the surface so that you can detach from it, man, and know that it's not you, and it never really was you.
Yeah. You mentioned how it's not your fault. If you find yourself on autopilot, it's not your fault. But once you become aware of it, then you mentioned it's now your responsibility to change that. So once you're aware that you're on autopilot and you don't do anything about it, and you're still complaining that you're not happy with where you are, all this and that, you don't like your job, you're stressed out, whatever, and you don't do anything about it, then it is your fault for staying there. So how would you recommend somebody go about getting out of autopilot? I know we kind of just covered that, but I know ego can be a big thing in, doing something else, trying something new, because your ego is there to keep you, quote unquote, safe, what it believes to be safe. So you want to talk a little bit about how ego plays into all this?
Absolutely, man. And yeah, just to jump on your point, awareness is a very scary thing, because once you're aware of something, it's either going to make or break you. If you're aware you're not, and you're supposed to be doing something and you're not doing it, it's going to be your fault, and you're going to feel it even more deeply, right? Whereas if you're ignorant to something, you don't know about it, you don't feel as bad, because you don't know what you don't know. So yeah, really good point there, man. The awareness it's a responsibility that you have now once you know the awareness. But yeah, man. So basically, in terms of the ego, right? The ego, like you said, it's there to quote unquote keep us safe, right? It wants to keep us comfortable and familiar. So, what happens is through our life, we attach meaning to something. Our brain is just kind of a meaning finder. So as we go through an experience, something happens, and we'll attach a meaning to it based on the experience, based on, a lesson from somebody in our past. And what will happen is, once we become conscious of that, once we get enough reps, again, it'll get delegated to the subconscious. And so what happens is basically the ego is the subconscious running on autopilot. So it's the body and the brain, the thoughts and the feelings just running on autopilot to kind of keep you safe and not keep you from, stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping into, some more uncertainty. And so, what happens, man, is that the problem with the autopilot is that it's going to continue to go until you manually flip that switch and be the observer. So the ego, like a good way to understand, if somebody understands what ego is, if somebody says, I don't have an ego, that means they don't know what ego is, because we all have an ego. It's just a matter of, can you be stronger than the ego? Can you be the observer, that third B, like I talked about, be the being that's actually observing it all and really taking control of your life? And so, the ego is this vicious thing, and there's nothing good about it, man. It's just this negative cycle that is dictating your life. And most people don't know what it is and know how to fix it. So.
Yeah. And this quote just came to my mind, and it's something that I feel like we should address on this podcast, or at least mention, because it's so fitting. I don't remember who this is from, but the quote is, freedom is overcoming your default self. So like you just said, if you're on autopilot, you have to consciously, take yourself out of that default mode. You have to overcome your ego, your limiting beliefs, all these things that are trying to hold you back. And limiting beliefs kind of ties in with ego too, is a huge thing that prevents people from taking action. I would say limiting beliefs is one of the biggest things that holds people back from, success, from whatever they want, because their belief about something is their reality. I actually just made an Instagram post about this today. Whatever you believe is your reality. There is no one, reality. It's whatever you and I think is happening. So another one of my favorite quotes from Shakespeare is, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So for example, the whole coronavirus pandemic and lockdown, 2020 being the worst year ever. Everybody experienced the year. Yes, we all had different events occur, but it's how you look at those events. You can either choose to focus on all the positive things that happened, or you can choose to focus on all the negative things that happened. I'm quarantined. I can't go see my friends. This sucks. Or you can say, hey, now I have the opportunity to stay at home, find new ways to connect with my friends via FaceTime, Zoom, whatever, get creative with it. I can learn, I can read, I can listen to podcasts, work out at home, whatever. There's a million possibilities. But so many people, I think, get caught in their limiting beliefs, and they believe those things, so they don't take any action. So what would you suggest as a mindset coach to overcome those limiting beliefs?
Yeah, dude, that's a great question, man, and such a powerful point in the quote that you said, man. It's all so powerful, like, and that's the thing about beliefs, man. Like in the definition, beliefs are something that we perceive as true, and so we think it's a truth, right? That's why it's
Yeah.
so hard for people to have conversations in politics and religion, is because we think our belief is true because of how it happens. And so, to answer your question, Taylor, I think it's important, again, to understand the awareness of where it comes from, and then really understanding that you can really detach from the limiting beliefs. So quickly, I just want to kind of walk through the process of how the limiting beliefs kind of can start.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what happens, man, is every limiting belief we have is passed on from an imperfect teacher giving us an imperfect lesson, right? Whether that's in school, whether that's in sports, whether that's a friend, a parent, right? It's this imperfect teacher giving us an imperfect lesson that will create a thought or a feeling, an imperfect perception, right? So it could be something like, I have a really bad kick in soccer when I'm 5 years old, and the coach says, what do you got, 2 left feet or something? And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't like play sports, or I can't kick a soccer ball. And then what happens is, right, our brain is a meaning finder. So it's going to look for that same meaning in different areas. So now I'm going to get reps in, right? I'd kick another soccer ball, it goes haywire. Like, I throw a football and it goes haywire. I'm getting in reps. So eventually, right, it becomes subconscious because there's so many reps in. And so those reps end up forming a belief or a rule. And so what happens is that belief or a rule basically forms our personal reality, which is essentially our personality. So we're getting our personality from someone else, which is a really crazy dynamic when you think about it. So the beauty in that, man, is because you've gotten so many reps in whatever that limiting belief is, where it is in the subconscious. You've just delegated it, right? So if you can do the deep work, if you can understand, again, like catch that thought, catch that limiting belief when it comes in, and say, why am I thinking this? And really take some time to go back through your past and try to find out where it came from. Because like I said, where it comes from. You've buried it in the subconscious. So once you can, again, illuminate and shine some light on that limiting belief, you realize that it was never you. You realize that it was something that somebody gave to you that you just formed into your personal reality, and it became your personality. Therefore, you think it's true and it's your life. And so the power, man, is going back, finding when that happened and detaching from it, man, because it doesn't serve you anymore. An example for me, man, is I remember I was in school and I was drawing a picture, and a kid next to me was drawing a picture, right? And I remember the teacher saying, like, Tommie, you did it wrong. The picture's supposed to look like his. So now all of a sudden in my head, I'm seen as like, I can't do any type of art, or I can't do this picture, right? The same thing could have been if I was doing math and I got the question wrong. So what happens is now all of a sudden I start getting these reps in, and the reps could be in the form of, I'm in the slower classes, the not as smart classes. Now, basically what happened to me, Taylor, is there was this huge limiting belief that I couldn't achieve through school because it was just brought on me that I wasn't good at school. Every time I would do something, hey, no, it's supposed to be like this, right? So what happened was I took the correlation that I wasn't smart because I wasn't good at school. So my whole life, right, I was a good athlete. So I would chase athletic achievement because I thought that I couldn't achieve during school. I thought I had a limiting belief, man, that I couldn't achieve during school because I was the athlete and I wasn't the school kid, right? So what happens is, man, my whole life was filled with these reps of thinking that I was dumb because I wasn't good at 5 core subjects, bro. Think about how wild that is. Like, I'm not smart because I'm not good at math, science, English, and art. Like, are you serious? And so that's the reality that kind of came to me. So the power was going back through and finding that example that I just mentioned and detaching from it, because it was never who I am. It didn't mean that I wasn't smart just because I wasn't good at school, right? And so that was, one of the powerful breakthroughs for me, is going back in, finding where it came from and just eradicating it because it doesn't serve you and it never was you.
Yeah. So it sounds like all of this comes back to awareness. And unless you're a kid, when you're a kid, there's not really much you can do about your environment, the people around you, and your childhood conditioning. But as an adult, it sounds like overcoming these limiting beliefs is all about awareness, because you mentioned that, a lot of these limiting beliefs were given to you based on what your friend tells you, what you see in the news, that whatever it is. And it sounds to me like somebody can only give you a limiting belief if you're on autopilot, if you're not aware of your thinking and, what it is that you're actually thinking, being mindful about yourself, not just accepting all these other beliefs that are being quote unquote given to you. Would you agree with that statement?
I would, man. It was really well said. Like, once you know, again, like, that's why I have that purpose statement. Once you know who you are,
Mm.
you're not going to be able to tell me who I am, right?
Yeah.
Because I know who I am. And so it's like you, man, like when you become the captain of your own life, people can't, they can't penetrate, right? Because the conscious being is more strong than the ego now. And it's an everyday battle, right? But when you know who you are, and when you, like you said, you can, live a life by design rather than default and be the captain of your own life. That's where the power is, bro. Then nothing can touch you, man. It's a great, yeah, you said it beautifully.
Awesome. Are you familiar with Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck, the book?
I'm familiar with, yeah, vaguely. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I would say that you should drop everything on your calendar and go read that book, because it ties in perfectly with everything that you do. And I think now it's starting to be taught in schools,
Wow.
um, because so it's the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's not Growth Mindset. Subtitled The New Psychology of Success. And because childhood conditioning plays such a huge role in how you're going to end up as an adult, it's so important to start, learning these things, or teaching them to kids as early as possible. Because as we've been saying the whole podcast, your coach saying that you have 2 left feet in soccer, like that stuck with you, just little things that, the adults think mean nothing, but the kids stick onto that and they form these limiting beliefs. So the sooner we can get into the growth mindset, and the growth mindset being you are able to learn anything you want. You're not this fixed person. You don't have these, set of skills and you can't change. Everybody can grow and learn new things. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
implementing that growth mindset and, spreading awareness around that, your ability to change as a human being. We're not just these fixed creatures with this innate set of talents and abilities. You can always develop new
Mm.
skills.
Dude, I love that. I will definitely check out that book, man. And I do think, one of the things that people, the ego will make an excuse to kind of justify it, and it'll say like, oh no, this is just how you are, right? No, like, we are born perfect, dude. Like, we only get broken down from there, and it's our, responsibility to build back up. So I think it's, what you said is so right, man. Like, I know this, right? If you got, like, precondition for stuff like genetic mutations, you can really like change your whole body. You can turn off those markers. You can do all these things, man, your whole life. Like, the powerful one, dude, like, you are the captain of your own life. You are the powerful one. Nothing is fixed, man. You can be that powerful observer. So that was well said, man.
That being said, the captain's lifestyle and the powerful one seems like they're a lot, aligned, at least with the mindset regard. I talk a lot about a holistic lifestyle, bring up every single area of your life. You can't just eat well and then get 6 hours of sleep and be healthy. every single area has to be optimized in order for you to live your best life. So you want to talk a little bit about alignment in every area of your life and what you mean by that?
Yeah, dude. And you with your business, you do such a good job of this, and it's so important. And that's what I really appreciate about what you're doing, man, is that you make very clear. I mean, bro, the body and mind are connected. You can't ignore one, man. If you ignore one, the other one's gonna diminish, right? So like
100%.
I love what you're doing, man, because so many nutrition coaches, so many personal trainers, they're neglecting one or the other, man. There's a reason, bro, that when you're happy, you smile, and when you smile, you become happy. They're connected, right? Like our physiology and our psychology, they're connected. And so for me, the way I look at it is like everything is connected. If you can have proper alignment in these different areas, then you will just be functioning at such a high level. So, the way I break down like the pillars that are important to me in life is spirituality, relationships, financial and business, mental and physical, those five. And if I can be powerful and aligned in those five pillars and then define success the way I define it, my life is going to be incredible. And so, it's just one of those things, right? Like, this morning I got an early morning workout. So therefore I was going to eat better throughout the day, because now I'm looking to, nourish my body. When I eat better, all of a sudden I have better relationships. When I have better relationships, now all of a sudden my spirituality is becoming better, because I'm more likely to be in a good mood and pray. And now all of a sudden I'm showing up in my business powerfully as the person who can, effectively get stuff done. And so they're all very important to have alignment in all these pillars of life. And so I just find it so important, man, to really understand what those pillars look like for you, what's important in your life that you can have proper alignment. And, that's why your work, Taylor, is so great, because mind and body is so important regardless of what your other pillars are. And really they all are ultimately.
Yeah, 100%. And I used to be that person. I used to be the personal trainer who thought it was only about working out, and then I started to learn about, how much nutrition plays a role, and how if you're sleeping less than 7 hours and continuing to work out, you might actually be making yourself weaker by lowering your testosterone and all these things. So yeah, everything is connected. Like you can't sacrifice one area and thrive in another. That's just not how it works. I think the future of successful businesses and entrepreneurs is all going to be predicated on people who care. So by that I mean people who care about themselves. So the CEO, founder of the company, has to care about themselves, their own personal health, happiness, and productivity. They have to care about their employees, because if you have healthy, happy, and productive employees, obviously that's good for everybody, but also your business, because your employees are what drive a business. And then you also have to care about your community, giving back in some way, shape, or form, having a quality product, or donating, volunteering, whatever it is, and then caring about the planet. I don't believe that there will be successful companies in the future. And when I say in the future, I don't have a specific timeline. I think it'll be sooner rather than later, just because of all the plastic pollution and everything that's going on. I think if you're a business and your impact on the environment is negative, I don't believe you can be successful. Just because if you don't care about the environment, how can you care about yourself? One can't exist without the other. If the environment goes to trash, humans aren't going to exist anymore. So you have to care about everything. Everything has to be aligned, which is what I teach, which is obviously what you teach. So talk to me a little bit more about your mindset coaching in Powered Up Academy.
Yeah, man, that was really well said, Taylor. I mean, it's no wonder that you have had success in the field, of high performance, because you do get it right in the alignment. So just, honor to you on that. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
man. So, my Powered Up Academy coaching is really all about that, man. It's all about alignment in those five pillars, right? Like if you can define success by being who you want to be, having what you want to have, doing what you want to do, and then if you can align that with having proper alignment and showing up powerfully in your spirituality, your mental, your physical, your business, your relationships, again, like I said, you're going to have a very fulfilling and happy life. And so part of my program is really first establishing that MVP system, getting you a mission statement, a vision statement, and a purpose statement that really is this operating system that you are now living by. And so what happens is, the first part of my program is developing this ideal, right, for our life. But then the second part, man, is taking inventory on where you are now and seeing that there is a huge discrepancy from basically where you want to go and where you are. And so the whole rest of the program for my coaching is really bridging that gap. So it's going through, man, doing a lot of the stuff we talked about, getting rid of some of these old limiting beliefs so that you can become the person who can live that powerful life, right? So you can live that, be the captain of your own life and show up powerfully. And so the second part of the program, man, is really about fixing the brain, man, the neural pathways, getting rid of old connections, building new connections. The next part, man, is building structure, building foundation. I think think about like building a house, right? Most people want to start with structure in life. They want to be like, all right, I got to build my goals and my priorities. It's like, whoa. You're trying to build structure without having a vision and then digging foundation. It's going to collapse. And so then now that we've, have a vision of what we want, now that we've dug the foundation, gotten rid of all those old neural pathways, created new connections in the brain, now we can build structure, right? And it's going to be lasting structure because you're a new person. And so basically that is, developing systems to track our goals, to track our daily non-negotiables, things like that. And then part 5, man, is all about something that I know you're big on, which is rest, intentional time to rest, to make sure you're showing up powerfully, reflecting, and then recasting. So what we do is, there's a daily reflection, man. How did you show up today in those 5 pillars and for your MVP statement, just objectively looking at our days and seeing how we can get better the next day. And so basically the last part is just recasting. So every 26 days, so I'm very spiritual, like in the book of Nehemiah, if anybody's familiar with the Bible, Nehemiah has this group of people and they get together to rebuild the wall in Israel, man. And they get all excited and amped up, right? They have this new life. They have this new mission, a vision, a purpose. But 26 days in, they get so tired, man, because they forget their drive. They forget why they're doing it. So every 26 to 30 days, basically every month, you recast your vision, your mission, your purpose. You say, why am I doing all this, man? What is the point of it all? And you get re-energized so you can show up powerfully the next month and just keep that process going, man. So that's really the component of my programs, and trying to have, like, similar to you, man, a holistic approach into really making sure I cover everything to get you to, the person that you want to become.
I love that. And I start my program the exact same way, starting off with the mission statement, the vision statement, your core values. And like you said, it's not enough just to have those things. You have to constantly review them. So many people, well, actually, I don't know about so many people. I think most people don't even have, the MVP. But if you do have it, a lot of people, I think, just do it just to check the box and forget about it. But like you said, at least every month, go back and review that. Make sure you're still on track. As Stephen Covey says in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you have to make sure that your ladder to quote unquote success is leaning up against the right wall. So constantly reassure and go back and check, make sure that you're actually climbing up the ladder to success of where you want to end up. Because if you don't, and you get to the top and you don't like where you are, that's not where anybody wants to be. You mentioned non-negotiables. What are some of your daily non-negotiables?
Yeah, man. So for me, first thing I do in the morning is I have a list of personal non-negotiables that get done, non-negotiable. So, a quote that one of my mentors says is, champions do things based on their commitments, not their feelings. And so I have non-negotiables, regardless of how I'm feeling, regardless of how circumstances are. I do these every single day. And yes, I might slip on a couple, but it's the intention and the action that line up to make sure they're met. So, first thing I do, man, is I hop in the cold shower. I'm not going to get into the specifics of all of them because there's a lot.
Time out. Cold shower. Okay. I've said this on the past fucking 5 podcasts. Every single one of my podcast guests takes cold showers. So I emphasized this last podcast. I emphasized this with the one you heard with Mike Anderson.
Right.
Take a fucking cold shower. Literally every single guest I have on the show says almost first thing, that is what they do, myself included. So man, just for the listeners out there, please take a cold shower. It is a game changer.
It's a game changer, bro. And I'm sure you know so much more about why it is. And I'm glad you jumped in because, I think there's a common theme, bro. If everyone on this podcast is taking them, there's got to be some method to the madness, right? So yeah, cold shower, bro. Number one. The second thing I do is now that I'm awake, I can powerfully pray. So I'll pray, man. I'll pray to God. I'm such a believer, man. And then what I'll do is I will do some meditation. So I'll do about a 15-20 minute meditation. And then I will do about 15 minutes of an audio book. Then I will do a daily devotional, so a piece of scripture. And then after that, I will send out one love and appreciation text, or at least one love and appreciation text. And then after that, I will time block out my day to make sure I can get everything that needs to get done that day. And then I will start to get into my business non-negotiables, which are just, personal for me and my business. But that is the personal non-negotiables, man. Every single day in that order, track it on a spreadsheet. I do it every single day. And it really, it just sets the tone, man. I'm sure like you talk about, I'm sure morning routines and stuff like that and how powerful it is, that you're building momentum. And all of a sudden you can really just have an effective and powerful day.
100%. It really makes a huge difference, just getting out of autopilot, because a lot of people wake up and they're just reacting to different things, reacting to their phone. If you wake up and the first thing you do is check your phone and all these notifications pop up, notifications are other people's priorities. They're saying, hey, I need your attention. And if you react to those and you give them your attention, you're basically saying that your time is not worth anything, because you're just constantly being taken to the next thing and not being mindful and aware of what it is that you want. So by creating a morning ritual, it makes sure that you start your day off by prioritizing you. And by prioritizing you, you're able to then fill your own cup, so then you can spill out and pour it into everybody else's cup. So you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help other people if you yourself are not happy and fulfilled. So awesome, Tommie. Well, this has been a fantastic show. I love everything you're doing with Powerful One. Tell people where they can find more about you, mention your podcast for sure, all those things.
Yeah, man. So you guys can find my podcast anywhere you're listening to this, as well as YouTube. And yeah, man, really, you can find me. I'm very active on Instagram. So it's at Mountain Teep, Teep. And then also Powerful 0NE on Instagram. And then also at Powered Up Academy. Or you could just find everything at powerful-one.com. So yeah, man, that's where you can find me. So I got content I'm posting every day. But Taylor, man, just honor to you for this powerful platform that you've created, man, and for just being a true powerful one, man. So honor to you for everything that you're doing and for the man that you are, and thank you again, man, for having me on this show.
Thanks, Tommie. It was a blast. And yeah, guys, definitely go follow Tommie. Everything he's doing is fantastic. Subscribe to his podcast. Good stuff on there. Yeah, any last words you want to leave him with?
No, man, I just want to say, if you guys need somebody, man, I will be that person for you. If you just need somebody that you're like, you're starting to build that awareness, hit me up, man. Even just, friend to friend, a client to coach, whatever it is, hit me up. I like helping people at the end of the day. So yeah, just honor again for you having me on the show. And if you're listening, hit me up. If you need some direction, that's, that's the least I can do is give some sense of direction, man.
Perfect. All right, Tommie, thanks again. And don't forget, live the captain's lifestyle. Peace.